from CEO thought she'd never leave, but when she signed the divorce papers, he broke down. The ballroom glittered with crystal chandeliers, the air heavy with champagne and secrets. Every camera in the city had turned to capture Adrian Kane, the billionaire CEO with the perfect smile, and the woman standing quietly beside him, his wife, Elena. Except tonight, she wasn't really standing with him. He was surrounded by shareholders, models, and his ambitious PR head Vanessa Hart, whose laughter clung to his shoulder like perfume. Elena, dressed in a soft silver gown that shimmered under the lights, felt more like a ghost than a guest. She'd spent 5 years learning to read his silences. Tonight, they screamed louder than any insult. "Smile, Mrs. Kane," Vanessa whispered, brushing past her with an empty glass and a smirk. "You wouldn't want the tabloids calling you the sad wife again." Elena's fingers trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. "Careful, Vanessa." Some smiles cut deeper than knives. The PR head froze, but before she could reply, the host took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, to mark our company's 10th anniversary, please welcome our visionary, Mr. Adrian Kane, and his wife, Mrs. Elena Kane." Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. Elena's heart clenched as Adrian stepped forward, hand outstretched, not for her, but for Vanessa, who handed him the mic with a smile that lasted too long. He didn't notice, or pretended not to. "To the people who built this empire," Adrian said, his voice smooth and commanding, "and to those who stood beside me through every storm." His gaze flicked to Vanessa. The audience followed it. The message was clear. Elena's stomach twisted. The betrayal wasn't physical, it was emotional, colder than steel and twice as sharp. Then, disaster struck. As Adrian lowered his glass, Vanessa leaned close to whisper something, but in the motion, she accidentally tipped her champagne across Elena's gown. The golden liquid splashed down her front, glittering under the lights. Gasps filled the room. Vanessa's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my gosh, Elena. I'm so sorry." The words were sugar. The smirk beneath them was poison. And Adrian, her husband, her protector, just stood there, watching, silent. Someone laughed softly in the back. A murmur rippled through the crowd. "Guess she's used to it. Poor thing. Look at his face. He's not even helping her." Elena's throat burned. Humiliation flooded her chest. She set the empty glass down, wiped her hands, and forced her trembling lips into a calm smile. "Don't worry," she said evenly. "I've been cleaning up other people's messes for years." The crowd went still. Adrian's head snapped toward her, something unreadable flickering behind his eyes, but it was too late. She'd already turned, heels clicking against the marble floor as she walked out. Outside, the rain was merciless. Elena stood under the awning of the hotel, her silver gown now clinging to her like second skin. The city lights blurred in her tears. This wasn't the life she imagined. When she'd married Adrian, she thought she was walking into love, into warmth. But somewhere along the way, the man who once held her like she was fragile glass began treating her like furniture. Seen but never felt. And tonight, she realized she had become invisible even to him. Her phone buzzed. A message. From Adrian. "You didn't have to make a scene." Elena laughed bitterly. "A scene?" He called her dignity a scene. She typed back with shaking fingers. "I didn't. You did." Then she turned off her phone and let the rain wash the glitter from her skin. Inside the ballroom, Adrian stood by the window, watching her silhouette disappear into the storm. Vanessa was saying something. Damage control, probably, but her words faded under the sound of his heartbeat. Why did it hurt to see her leave? He'd told himself their marriage was practical, transactional. She'd been loyal, quiet, dependable, qualities he once mistook for weakness. But lately, every time she pulled away, he felt unsteady, like a man standing on the edge of a building, staring down at what he'd built, realizing it all meant nothing if she wasn't there to see it. "Adrian." Vanessa purred beside him, laying a manicured hand on his sleeve. "She's being dramatic. Don't let her ruin your night." He turned to her slowly, eyes cold. My wife has never needed to ruin anything, Vanessa. Other people do that just fine. Vanessa's smile faltered. Meanwhile, Elena walked barefoot through the rain, heels dangling from her hand. The city glowed around her, neon signs, blurred traffic, 1,000 strangers passing without a glance. For the first time in years, she felt the air on her face. It was raw. It was real. She stopped under a flickering streetlight, water dripping from her hair, and whispered to herself, maybe the only way to be seen again is to disappear first. Back at the mansion, an hour later, Adrian entered their bedroom. Her dress was gone. Her perfume lingered faintly in the air. On the nightstand lay her wedding ring, cold, small, deliberate. Beside it, a single note in her handwriting. You once told me I was your peace. But peace cannot live where it's never protected. Adrian's jaw clenched. He crushed the paper in his hand, but the tremor in his chest betrayed him. Outside, thunder roared. Inside, silence answered. He didn't know it yet, but that was the night his empire began to crumble, and the woman he thought would never leave had already taken the first step toward freedom. From CEO thought she'd never leave, but when she signed the divorce papers, he broke down. Morning light crept through the penthouse windows, slicing across untouched breakfast plates and a half-empty cup of black coffee. Adrian Kane sat at the head of the table, reading the same line of the financial report for 10 minutes straight. His world, once perfectly controlled, felt off balance. Elena's chair across from him was empty. Her laughter, her quiet humming while she poured his coffee, the small warmth that softened the glass and steel of his mornings, all gone. He'd convinced himself she was just being dramatic, that she'd come back after cooling off. But when the maid entered holding a courier envelope, his chest tightened. Divorce petition. No letter. No explanation. Only her signature. For the first time in years, Adrian forgot how to breathe. 3 hours later, Kane Enterprises headquarters. The boardroom was packed. Shareholders, department heads, PR managers, all on edge. News channels were flashing photos of last night's gala disaster. CEO's marriage in crisis. The stock was slipping. And the woman at the center of it all, Elena, had just walked into the room. She was no longer the invisible wife hiding behind him at events. Today, she looked untouchable. Her hair was pulled back sharply, her eyes calm, her silver suit tailored to perfection. The room fell silent. Adrian's voice was the first to break it. Elena, this isn't the place. It's exactly the place, she interrupted, her tone firm but graceful. Because what happened last night didn't just humiliate me, it jeopardized this company's reputation. Her words cut through the room like a blade. One of the older board members cleared his throat. Mrs. Kane, perhaps this should be discussed privately. Elena smiled faintly. Privacy ended when someone decided to turn our lives into a public spectacle. All eyes flicked to Vanessa, who shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Elena stepped forward, setting a file on the table. These are audit reports from my foundation under the Kane Group. I discovered irregularities, transfers authorized by the PR department under Vanessa Hart's name. Gasps. Whispered voices. Vanessa's face drained of color. Adrian's head snapped toward Vanessa. Is that true? Vanessa stammered. I don't know what she's talking about. Those were approved under the CEO's digital signature. Elena turned to him then, her gaze steady. And that's why I'm here. I came to protect your company, Adrian. Even if you couldn't protect me. Her words hit him harder than any accusation. He rose slowly, voice low. You could have told me this before. I did. Her eyes flickered with pain. But you were too busy believing her. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Elena gathered her papers, her voice steady. I'm resigning from all company charities effective immediately. I'll release an official statement clearing your name and mine. Adrian's jaw clenched. You think walking away fixes this? She met his gaze, unflinching. No. But staying silent was destroying me. The meeting broke into chaos as Elena turned to leave. Adrian followed her out into the corridor, his composure cracking. Elena, wait. She didn't stop walking. You have a company to run, Mr. Kane. He reached for her arm. Don't do that. Don't treat me like I'm... Like what? She spun, eyes flashing. Like a man who let his wife be humiliated in front of the entire city and said nothing? His hand fell away. She stepped closer, her voice trembling but fierce. You once said I was the only person who made you feel human. Tell me, Adrian, what happened to that man? Because all I see now is a stranger who measures love in silence and control. He stared at her, the weight of her words cutting deep. He wanted to say something, anything, but the truth was, he didn't know when he'd stop seeing her. Is this really what you want? He asked quietly. A divorce? She hesitated. Just for a second, he saw the flicker of pain in her eyes, the woman who once believed in him. Then she straightened. What I want is respect. If that only comes with distance, then yes. Her heels clicked against the marble as she walked away. That night, Adrian sat alone in his office, city lights sprawling below him like a kingdom he suddenly didn't recognize. His phone buzzed nonstop, messages from Vanessa, the PR team, his lawyers, but he didn't answer. He scrolled through his photos instead. Elena laughing with paint on her hands, Elena holding a stray kitten she found on the porch, Elena asleep beside him after a night of thunderstorms. For the first time in years, he felt the ache of something real, loss. He had power, money, control. But somewhere along the way, he'd forgotten the one thing she ever wanted: to be seen. A notification popped up on his screen. Breaking news: CEO's wife exposes PR corruption. Vanessa Hart under investigation. Adrian leaned back, closing his eyes. She had fought for him one last time, even as she was walking away. Meanwhile, Elena stood at her apartment window, looking out over the city she once ruled beside him. The wind tugged at her hair as she whispered to herself, I loved him with everything I had. But maybe love isn't about staying when someone stops fighting for you. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You've made powerful enemies, Mrs. Kane. Be careful who you trust. Elena's heart stilled. The text vanished as quickly as it appeared. She looked back at the city lights, unaware that somewhere across town, Adrian was staring at the same skyline, his heart breaking for the first time in his life. From everyone failed to save the dying CEO until a homeless girl's blood brought him back and stole his heart. The sterile white of the hospital room felt like a tomb. Machines hummed in steady rhythm, but his heartbeat, faint, fragile, was slipping further into silence. Damien Locke, the CEO who built empires and broke competitors with a single sentence, now lay motionless beneath a web of tubes and wires. His pulse was a dying echo. Doctors rushed around him, faces drawn tight with panic. His organs are collapsing. Nothing's working. We've tried every compatible donor. None of them are a match. And then, through the chaos, a small voice trembled at the doorway. I'll do it, she whispered. Every head turned. It was her, the girl from the night before. The one they found outside the hospital, shivering in the rain with nothing but a torn coat and quiet eyes. Elena. She didn't know why she'd followed the sound of the ambulance that night. Maybe it was fate or madness. But when she saw him being wheeled through those glass doors, his face pale as death, something in her heart recognized him. I'll donate, she repeated, firmer this time. The chief surgeon frowned. Miss, his blood type is AB negative. It's extremely rare. We can't risk. I have AB negative. Her voice didn't shake now. Test me. The doctor hesitated, but something in her tone, steady, desperate, certain, made him nod. Minutes later, the impossible became real. She's a match, the nurse breathed. A perfect match. Hours later, the room was dim, the storm outside beating against the glass. Elena lay weak on a narrow cot, her arm bandaged, her body trembling from the loss of blood. Across from her, on a hospital bed surrounded by machines, Damien Locke breathed. His pulse was strong again. His skin had color. He was alive. The doctor's voice was hushed with awe. It's like his system rebooted. Whatever she has, her blood saved him. Elena barely heard it. Her eyelids fluttered, exhaustion dragging her down, but she couldn't stop looking at him. The man everyone said was heartless. The man whose face looked carved from marble, now softened by something achingly human. "I don't even know your name," she whispered. "But somehow, I couldn't let you die." When Damien woke, the first thing he saw was light, soft, golden, bleeding through the blinds. The second was her. A thin girl sitting by his bed, half asleep, a blanket slipping from her shoulders. Her face was pale, but her lips curved into the faintest smile, even in sleep. He tried to move, but his muscles protested. His throat was raw when he finally spoke. "Who are you?" Elena startled awake. Her eyes, gray, gentle, too honest, met his. "I'm nobody," she murmured. "You just needed blood." He frowned. "My doctors, my team, they couldn't save you," she said quietly. "They said you were gone. But I couldn't walk away." Something flickered in his chest. Gratitude, confusion, disbelief. Damien Locke was not used to people giving without wanting something in return. Everyone in his world had a price, a motive. But this girl, barefoot, wearing a hospital gown too big for her, looked at him with nothing but concern. "No one gives without reason," he said sharply, his CEO edge slipping through. "What do you want from me?" Her expression didn't change. Nothing. The word hit harder than any accusation. For a long moment, he just stared at her. Then, softer. "You gave me your blood. You nearly died doing it. You must want something." "I just didn't want another person to die," she said simply. "That's all." He almost laughed, but the sound broke in his throat. Because in that instant, something cracked in him. He'd spent years building walls around his heart, steel, power, pride. Yet one girl, with nothing to her name but kindness, had walked straight through them. Over the next days, his recovery astonished everyone. Board members visited. News outlets whispered. The impossible survival of Damien Locke became a miracle headline. But behind the closed doors of his hospital suite, silence ruled. Elena sat by the window, watching the rain streak the glass. She'd planned to leave once he woke, but the doctors insisted she rest until her hemoglobin recovered. Damien, meanwhile, found himself watching her more than he should. The way she traced patterns on the foggy window. The quiet hum of her voice when she thought no one was listening. The fragility and strength she carried like two sides of the same coin. "Why were you even here?" he asked one evening. Outside the hospital that night. Her fingers stilled. "I didn't have anywhere else to go." His chest tightened. "You're homeless?" She gave a small nod. "Just between places." He didn't know what to say. He'd spent his life surrounded by wealth, control, excess. And yet the woman who saved him had nothing. And maybe that was why he couldn't look away. That night, as he lay half awake, he heard her whisper in her sleep. "Don't leave me." The words were so soft, so broken. He felt them in his bones. He turned his head. She was dreaming, a tear sliding down her cheek. Without thinking, his hand reached across the distance between their beds. He brushed away the tear. Her skin was cold. Something inside him shifted, an ache he couldn't name. The next morning, he called his assistant. Find out everything about her. Name, background, where she came from. But when he looked toward the window, her bed was empty. The nurse hurried in. "Sir, the girl she left said she didn't belong here." The world seemed to tilt. Damien pushed himself up, ignoring the pain in his side. The monitors screamed in protest. "Find her," he ordered, voice raw. "Now." Because for the first time in his life, Damien Locke realized. He didn't want to be saved. He wanted her. From everyone failed to save the dying CEO until a homeless girl's blood brought him back and stole his heart. Rain fell again that morning, thin, silver threads washing over the glass of Damien Locke's penthouse window. The city below shimmered in blurred reflections, alive and indifferent. But inside, the world had stopped. He hadn't slept. Not really. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her, gray eyes wide with quiet strength, the tremble in her lips when she said she wanted nothing. Elena, the girl who had given him life, and vanished before he could say thank you. Damien clenched his jaw. People don't just disappear in my city. Find her, he ordered again into his phone, pacing the room like a man on the edge. Every hospital, shelter, soup kitchen, every CCTV near St. Mary's from the night I was brought in. I don't care what it takes. His assistant hesitated. Sir, we've already checked the databases. There's no record of an Elena with AB-negative blood. No ID, no medical file, nothing. Then she's hiding, he snapped. And I want to know why. The call ended, but his pulse didn't slow. He looked at his reflection in the window, sharp suit, healed scars, the eyes of a man who once believed nothing could shake him. Now he looked haunted. Across the city, Elena wrapped her coat tighter as she stepped out of the shelter. The morning air bit at her cheeks, damp and gray. She didn't belong anywhere, not among the polished marble of the hospital, and certainly not among people who looked at her like a miracle. She'd done what she could. That was enough. At least it should have been. But why did she keep thinking about him? His voice, hoarse but steady. His eyes, stormy, searching, lost. The way he had looked at her like she was something fragile he couldn't understand. She shook the thought away. Don't be stupid, Elena, she whispered. He's a CEO. You're nothing. Still, her chest ached in a way no hunger ever had. Later that night, Damien's black car sliced through the rain-soaked streets of downtown. He sat in the back seat, scanning the sidewalks, faces flashing past like ghosts. His driver, Mason, glanced in the mirror. Sir, we've been out for hours. Maybe. Keep driving. His tone left no room for argument. They passed the shelter district, the neon lights reflecting on puddles. Damien's gaze caught on a figure crouched by a half-collapsed awning, a girl handing food to a stray dog, her hair sticking to her cheeks. Something inside him recognized her before reason did. Stop the car. The brakes squealed. Damien stepped out into the rain, ignoring the cold that instantly soaked through his shirt. Elena, he called. She froze. The tin plate in her hands clattered to the ground. When she turned, her eyes went wide, shock, disbelief, fear. Mr. Locke, she breathed. What are you doing here? He approached slowly, rain dripping from his hair. I could ask you the same thing. You disappeared. I didn't belong there, she said softly. You're fine now. That's what matters. No, he said, his voice breaking through the storm. You matter. She flinched like the words hurt. Don't say that. You don't know me. Then let me. For a heartbeat, only the rain spoke between them. I don't need your pity, she whispered. This isn't pity. His tone was raw. You saved me. No one's ever done that for me without wanting something. I don't know how to just walk away. Her lips trembled, eyes bright with tears she wouldn't let fall. You don't have to repay me, Damien. I'm not trying to repay you, he said. I'm trying to find you. They stood under the streetlight, two broken silhouettes against the storm. Finally, she looked away. You shouldn't be here. If people see you with someone like me, I don't care what people see, he cut in. You gave me my life, Elena. The least I can do is offer you something better than this. Better? She laughed softly, a sound full of pain. You think a roof changes what I've lost? His expression softened. What did you lose? Her throat worked before she answered. Everything. My parents died 3 years ago. I tried to survive, but when you have nothing left, people stop seeing you. You start disappearing piece by piece. Damien's chest tightened. He understood more than he wanted to admit. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You didn't disappear to me. Her breath hitched. For a moment, she let herself meet his gaze. Two souls who shouldn't have crossed, yet somehow did. But then, headlights flared as another car passed, and reality broke the spell. She took a step back. I can't. Your world isn't mine. Elena, please just forget me. And before he could reach for her, she turned and ran into the rain. Back at the penthouse. Hours later, Damien stood by the window again, watching the city lights flicker. A glass of untouched scotch sat on the table beside him. He could still hear her voice, see the way she looked at him like she wanted to believe in him but didn't dare. He slammed the glass down, shards scattering across the floor. "I'm not letting you go again," he muttered. "Not this time." His phone buzzed. It was Mason. "Sir, we traced her medical record through the donor file. There's something you should see. Her blood, it's not just a match. It has a rare anomaly. The hospital flagged it as classified." Damien's eyes narrowed. "Classified? Why?" "I don't know, sir. But it looks like someone from the hospital is already looking for her too." A chill ran through him. "Who?" "Unknown," Mason replied. "But whoever it is, they've been paying people to track her down." Damien turned toward the window, rain streaking down the glass like veins of silver. So she's not just a miracle. She's a target. And for the first time in his life, Damien Locke wasn't thinking about business or power or profit. He was thinking about her. From everyone failed to save the dying CEO until a homeless girl's blood brought him back and stole his heart. The boardroom was silent, too silent. Every executive at Locke Industries sat frozen as Damien slammed a folder down on the glass table. The echo cracked through the air like thunder. "Who approved the hospital's access to my medical data?" His voice was low, lethal, every word sharpened by fury. No one dared to move. He looked from face to face, seasoned executives, legal heads, and his medical advisor, all suddenly looking like frightened interns. "I nearly died," Damien continued, "and now someone from my own hospital partner is tracking the woman who saved me. You think I won't burn the city to the ground to find out why?" "Mr. Locke," the legal head stammered, "it's possible they're researching her blood type." "The anomaly?" "Anomaly?" Damien snapped. "She's not a lab rat. She's a human being." He turned away before his rage exploded. His reflection in the window was distorted by rain streaks, a man who used to rule empires now consumed by something raw, unfamiliar, personal. He didn't just owe Elena his life. He needed her safe. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the city, Elena moved through the night with her hood pulled low. Every step echoed in the narrow alleyways. She had changed shelters again, but unease clung to her skin. In the last 2 days, she'd noticed them. Men in suits lingering too long near the soup kitchens, strangers asking questions about a young woman named Elena. She thought she was being paranoid until she wasn't. As she passed an old laundromat, a black van pulled up beside her. "Miss Elena?" a man called, smiling too easily. "We're from a hospital. We just need to run a few more tests. Nothing to worry about." Her pulse spiked. "I already donated blood," she said, backing away. "Please, miss. It's for your safety." Then his hand reached for her arm. Before she could scream, a black car screeched to a halt behind them. The door flew open. Damien Locke stepped out, rain pouring off his shoulders, eyes blazing. He didn't hesitate. One punch sent the man sprawling against the van. Another step forward, and the second man backed away, hands up. "You picked the wrong woman," Damien said through clenched teeth. The men scrambled into their van and sped off into the storm. Elena stood frozen, chest heaving, her hair plastered to her face. "Damien, how did you?" He didn't answer at first. His hands were still trembling, not from fear, but from fury. "They were going to take you." She swallowed hard. "They said it was for my safety." He laughed bitterly. "Your safety doesn't come in unmarked vans." She looked down, ashamed, soaked, vulnerable. "I didn't want to cause trouble for you." "You are my trouble," he said softly. "And I'm not letting anyone touch you again." Her eyes flickered up to his. For a second, they just stared. Two souls in the downpour, their breath clouding the space between them. Then Damien shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "You're coming with me." At the penthouse, Elena sat curled on the edge of the couch, Damien pacing like a storm contained in human form. His phone lit up again. "Mason. They're from Helix Research," Mason reported. A private genetics firm working under St. Mary's contract. Apparently, your donor's blood contains a cellular pattern that can regenerate organ tissue. They think it's unique. Damien's jaw tightened. And they think they can own her? That's not all, Mason said. They've filed a request for donor retrieval. They're planning to bring her in for containment if necessary. Over my dead body, Damien growled. He hung up and turned to Elena. She was quiet, watching him with that same cautious grace that unnerved him, the girl who looked fragile but had walked through fire alone. Why are they doing this? She whispered. Because you're special, he said simply. And people like them destroy what they can't control. Her lips trembled. You shouldn't be involved. They'll come after you too. They already have. He met her gaze. And I don't care. For a moment, the mask of the CEO slipped. He wasn't the untouchable tycoon anymore. He was just a man, tired, furious, and terrified of losing someone again. You saved my life, Elena. I don't believe that was fate. It was a warning. I was dying long before that hospital, and you reminded me what living feels like. Her breath caught. Damien. He stepped closer, voice low, rough. Stay here. Just for tonight. Let me keep you safe. She wanted to say no. She wanted to stay invisible, keep her heart locked away. But something in his eyes, desperation wrapped in warmth, made her nod. Just one night, she murmured. Midnight. Elena couldn't sleep. She stood by the window, wrapped in his coat, staring at the skyline. Behind her, Damien watched quietly from the shadows. I used to look at this city and feel invincible, he said. Now it just feels hollow. She turned. Because of me? He shook his head. Because I spent years building walls. And you walked through them without even trying. Elena smiled faintly, sad and beautiful. I didn't mean to. Maybe that's why it worked. They stood in silence, close enough to feel the other's heartbeat. Then Damien reached out, brushing a strand of wet hair from her cheek. You deserve a world better than this one. And you deserve peace, she whispered. But we don't always get what we deserve, do we? His hand lingered a second too long. Maybe we fight for it. Before either could speak again, a sharp knock echoed through the penthouse. 3 knocks. Then silence. Damien's eyes hardened instantly. Stay here. He crossed the room and opened the door, only to find an envelope on the floor, sealed in black wax. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Mr. Locke, step aside. The donor is government property now. And beneath it, an official insignia from the National Biomedical Security Agency. Elena's voice trembled. Damien, what does it mean? He looked up, eyes burning. It means this just got bigger than I thought. He tore the paper in half. Let them come. From everyone failed to save the dying CEO until a homeless girl's blood brought him back and stole his heart. The sirens came before dawn. A soft hum, growing louder through the misted glass of Damien Locke's penthouse windows. Red and blue flashes bled into the marble floor, painting the world in warning colors. Elena stood by the couch, barefoot, her heart pounding as the light flickered across her pale face. Damien, she whispered, they found us. He already knew. He'd been awake all night, sitting in the dark, watching the skyline. His jaw was set, his tie gone, shirt sleeves rolled. No longer the polished CEO, but a man ready for war. They're from the National Biomedical Security Agency, he said quietly, not turning to her. They won't stop. They think they own you. Her voice broke. I don't want anyone hurt because of me. He finally turned, and in his eyes burned something fierce, something utterly human. You saved me when everyone else walked away. You think I'd let them take you now? Damien. No, he took a step closer, his tone low but unshakable. You gave me life, Elena. Now, I'm giving you mine. The confrontation. When the elevator doors opened, men in dark suits filled the hallway. Government agents, helmets, rifles, the glint of authority. Damien stepped forward, alone. His security team stood behind him, uncertain whether to act. The lead agent held up a document. Mr. Locke, under the Biomedical Protection Act, We have orders to take the donor into federal custody. Donor? Damien repeated, his voice sharp with disgust. She has a name, and she's not your property. Sir, the anomaly in her blood poses national interest. Resistance will result in what? Damien cut in, stepping closer until the agent hesitated. Arrest? Go ahead. But you'll do it on every news channel in this city. I'll make sure the world sees how your government hunts down a girl who saved a dying man. The agent's expression faltered. You're risking everything, Locke. Your company, your name. Then take them, he snapped. Because none of it's worth a damn if I have to sell my soul to keep it. Behind him, Elena watched, stunned, trembling. Not because of the danger, but because she finally saw the truth. The man she'd thought was untouchable was breaking every rule for her. And he didn't even hesitate. Escape through the storm. Damien's security team bought them 5 precious minutes. By the time the agents regrouped, he had Elena by the hand, leading her down the private stairwell through the underground parking garage. Where are we going? She asked between breaths. Somewhere safe. You can't protect me forever, Damien. He stopped, turning to her in the dim light. Watch me. For a heartbeat, neither spoke. The air between them was thick with unsaid words. Then he opened the car door and said, softer this time, Please, Elena, just trust me one more time. She hesitated, then got in. Rain lashed the windshield as they drove through the sleeping city. Sirens echoed in the distance. Elena pressed her hand against the cold window, watching the world blur past, neon lights, puddles, strangers who would never know what was happening tonight. Her voice was barely a whisper. You'll lose everything because of me. I already lost everything that mattered, he said quietly. Until you gave it back. Her throat tightened. She wanted to tell him how she felt, how his voice had become the only safe sound in her world, but the words caught behind tears. At the old chapel, they reached the outskirts of the city, stopping by an abandoned chapel half buried in ivy. It was quiet there, sacred in a forgotten way. Damien parked the car and turned to her. No one will look here. You'll be safe until I. She caught his wrist. Don't you dare leave me now. He looked at her hand, small, trembling, warm, and something in him broke. Elena, his voice was rough. If I stay, they'll find us both. But if I can buy you time, maybe. No. Her tears spilled now, cutting through the dirt on her cheeks. You think I care about safety? You think I asked for any of this? I just wanted you to live. He stared at her, at the girl who'd walked through fire to save him, who still thought she didn't matter. And then he did something reckless. He pulled her into his arms. For a moment, everything, the rain, the sirens, the fear, disappeared. There was only her heartbeat against his chest, her breath trembling in the hollow of his neck. You saved my body, he whispered. Now you're saving my soul. Her hands clutched his shirt. Don't say things like that. I won't survive losing you. He drew back just enough to look into her eyes. Then don't. Stay with me. She shook her head, sobbing. You can't fight the government. I've fought worse. And then, softly, desperately, he kissed her. It wasn't polished or gentle. It was raw, like 2 broken people trying to breathe again. The world could burn outside that chapel, and he wouldn't have cared. Moments later, the sound of tires screeching outside shattered the silence. Damien turned instantly. Lights swept across the broken glass windows. Voices shouted orders. They found us, Elena breathed. He grabbed her hand again. Back door. Now. But before they reached it, the doors burst open. Agents pouring in, guns raised. Freeze. Elena flinched. Damien stepped in front of her, arms out. You'll have to go through me first. The lead agent spoke through a megaphone. Damien Locke, you're under arrest for obstruction of federal order. Step aside. Not a chance. They moved closer, weapons trained. And then something unexpected happened. Elena stepped forward. No, she said quietly. Let him go. I'll come with you. Damien's head snapped toward her. Elena, don't. Her eyes glistened. You've already lost too much because of me. If I go, they'll stop. I won't let them take you. She smiled sadly, touching his face. Then they'll destroy you. And I couldn't live with that. Tears mingled with rain on his cheeks as he gripped her hand. Don't do this. But she was already walking forward, toward the agents, toward the inevitable. Her voice was soft but steady. You once said I gave you life. Then promise me you'll live it. Don't waste it fighting for someone who's already gone. They took her away as he stood there, helpless for the first time in his life. The door slammed. The engines roared away into the night. And Damien Locke, the man who built an empire, fell to his knees in the rain. Epilogue hint. 1 year later. When the world declared her dead, he built an entire division to find her again,